Have you ever heard her say something that didn't sound like love but felt like it? A quick, "I miss you," a quiet, "You're different," or that one moment she looked away too slowly. Women don't always confess with words. They confess with patterns, and if you listen closely, you'll hear it. The shift in her tone, the weight behind a phrase, the heartbeat hiding in a laugh. So, here's the question. Do you know what it sounds like when a woman's falling for you without ever saying, "I love you"? In this video, we'll break down 7 powerful phrases women say when their emotions speak louder than logic. Each one is subtle, but if you know what to look for, it reveals more than any confession ever could. Part 1. Different in all the right ways why she says you're not like other guys. Most men don't realize the power of quiet contrast, of simply being different without trying to be. In a world where attention is cheap and effort often feels transactional, being genuinely grounded makes you magnetic without noise. It starts small, a glance held longer than usual, a smile that lingers even after the joke has faded, and then words. Words she doesn't fully realize carry meaning. "You're not like most guys I've met." To some, it sounds like flattery, but to a man who pays attention, it's the beginning of an emotional shift. Let me tell you a story. Her name was Ava, married for 8 years, 2 kids, a husband who was more business partner than soulmate. She met Jonah at a book launch, wasn't charming in the loud way. No flashy suit, no clever pickup lines, just a man who listened, a man who actually heard her. At first, she noticed how he didn't interrupt, how his phone stayed in his pocket, how when she spoke, he didn't try to fix anything. He just stayed present. One evening, after weeks of casual conversation in coffee shop corridors and community events, she looked at him and said, "You're really not like the other guys I know." He smiled. "I'll take that as a good thing. What makes you say that?" And just like that, her defenses melted a little. "It's the way you pay attention. I don't have to fight to be heard around you." She didn't mean to confess that much, but once it was out, it couldn't be unsaid. Psychologically, this moment is known as selective differentiation. When a woman begins to compare you favorably against the emotional absence she's normalized, attraction quietly brews. It's not just about being kind or respectful, it's about being seen as emotionally uncommon in a sea of emotional convenience. And when she sees you that way, everything shifts. This isn't about manipulation, it's about presence. Women, especially those in long, emotionally dry relationships, notice the small things men often overlook. The pause before you speak. The way you remember something she mentioned offhand. The absence of performative masculinity. You don't need to chase. She starts walking toward the feeling that you might be the exception. The Stoics would tell you, your energy is your discipline. When you master it, you don't need to announce your value, it radiates. And women, even those taken, can feel the gravity of a man who stands in his own stillness. Because being different isn't a tactic. It's who you are when you stop trying to be like anyone else. So, the next time she says, "You're not like other guys," don't shrug it off. That's not small talk. That's a window cracking open. She's not just telling you that you stand out. She's trying to understand why she feels safer with you than with the man she chose. And that's where this story begins. Now, let's move deeper into what it means when she starts calling you her closest friend, even when her heart clearly wants something more. Part 2. Friendship that feels too safe and why it's not really platonic. It always starts as comfort, a safe space, and then something shifts. Ethan never thought much about how Sarah greeted him. The texts at midnight, the way she'd always ask how his day went, even when she was clearly exhausted herself. They weren't dating, just close. Too close, maybe? She once told him, "You're one of my closest friends. I feel like I can tell you anything." It sounded like a compliment, but in the quiet moments, It felt like something more or less, depending on how you looked at it. Psychologically, when a woman starts identifying someone as one of her closest friends, especially early on, she's not necessarily pushing you into the friend zone. More often, she's testing the emotional ground. Because emotional safety is a woman's first requirement before attraction deepens. Dr. John Gottman, a leading relationship psychologist, notes that emotional trust precedes emotional desire in the vast majority of female attachment patterns. When a woman begins to open up about her fears, her past, her doubts, she isn't just making conversation. She's building emotional equity. You're not just someone she talks to. You're becoming her anchor. But here's the catch. The line between intimate friendship and emerging romantic interest is often quiet, blurred, and unspoken. Like the time Sarah told Ethan about her ex and ended with, "I just feel like you get me in a way he never did." She laughed it off, but Ethan felt it land. And that's how emotional tension grows, not from obvious flirtation, but from consistent vulnerability. In the Stoic view, emotions are never random. They are signals of internal alignment or misalignment. When someone starts gravitating toward you emotionally, their mind may still label it as friendship, but their actions often reveal something deeper. Here are the subtle cues. She shares things she hasn't told anyone else. She asks your opinion before making personal decisions. She mirrors your mood, energy, or even language patterns. She starts saying things like, "I can be myself around you," or "You're just easy to talk to." This isn't surface-level comfort. It's emotional exclusivity, a kind of bond she doesn't even realize she's forming. So how should you respond? Not with pressure, but with presence. Don't rush it. Don't label it. Let the space between you speak for itself. Say something like, "I think the best relationships start from a place of trust. If that's what we're building, I'm good with that." You're not confessing. You're acknowledging the connection without chasing it. And that restraint, that's where the real attraction brews. Because when a woman says, "You're one of my closest friends," and she smiles differently, pauses a little longer, or texts you when she's lonely but doesn't know why, it's not friendship. Not really. It's her heart knocking quietly before she dares to open the door. Up next, when her words say one thing, but her body says something else entirely. Let's talk about unspoken desire and how it hides in plain sight. Part 3. The body betrayal when her words say no, but her energy says stay. It's a strange moment when a woman says something and yet her entire body contradicts it. She'll say, "You're just a friend," while brushing her hair behind her ear in a way that invites your eyes to linger. She'll talk about how she's not looking for anything serious, but won't stop laughing at your jokes, lingering in every silence as if she's hoping you'll fill it with something deeper. This isn't manipulation. It's the subconscious trying to tell a truth that the mind isn't ready to admit. Let me tell you about Claire and Daniel. They met in a community class creative writing on Thursdays. Claire had a boyfriend. Daniel had no intentions, but somehow they always sat next to each other. At first, it was nothing shared critiques. Notes passed back and forth. Then something shifted. Claire started showing up just a little more put together on Thursdays. Not dressed for the class, dressed for a reaction. One day, as they walked out together, Daniel said, "I really enjoy talking with you." Claire laughed nervously and said, "Well, you're like safe. I don't have to think around you." But she didn't walk away. She stood there. Her eyes didn't say friend. Her pause didn't say no. Her body leaned slightly in, like it was breaking its own rules. That's the betrayal, not of morals, but of timing, of emotion escaping its cage. Psychologists call this incongruence when verbal and nonverbal messages don't match. But emotionally, it's more raw than that. It's the moment her mind says, "I shouldn't," and her heart says, "But I already have." And you'll notice it if you're paying attention. Her pupils dilate, even in dim light. Her voice softens when she says your name. She remembers things you don't even remember saying. She faces you fully, feet, torso, heart, even when sitting in a crowded room. But then she pulls back just enough, mentions her boyfriend, refers to you as such a good friend, throws up smoke signals hoping you'll respect her boundary while quietly aching that you don't disappear. So what should you do? Respect the boundary, not the illusion. If she says she's not available, take it at face value. But don't ignore what her body is telling you, that she's emotionally hungry for safety, for recognition, for someone who sees the version of her she doesn't show the world. You don't need to chase. You need to observe and decide if this is a space you're willing to hold, or one you're better off stepping away from. A stoic man doesn't confuse attention with intention. He understands that desire without alignment is chaos. He sees the beauty in the connection, but knows his worth isn't in whether she acts on it. Because sometimes, the most powerful attraction is the one that never crosses a line. The one that lingers in unspoken energy, reminding both people. This could have been something, but sometimes restraint is the deeper intimacy. And that is a memory no one forgets. Part 4. She misses you too soon. And that's not accidental. You hadn't even left town yet, but she already missed you. That was the moment Elijah realized something was different. He wasn't the kind of man women clung to. He was steady, kind, slow to speak, the kind of presence that felt like calm in a world that thrived on chaos. And Mia, well, she didn't do soft. She was smart, composed, funny in that sharp, quick-witted way. When they first met, she treated the idea of romance like an equation. Predictable inputs, expected results, never too vulnerable. But just 2 weeks in, something shifted. They hadn't even kissed. No promises, just conversations, deep ones, long voice notes, shared playlists, a strange comfort in silence. One night, after a quick dinner, she texted him, "I know this sounds crazy, but I already miss you." And it wasn't because she was in love, not yet. It was because she felt safe. According to relationship psychology, emotional safety is the single most powerful factor in early romantic bonding. When a woman feels heard, understood, and unjudged even for a short time, her nervous system starts to relax around you. Her walls don't fall instantly, but they soften. And once her body realizes it's finally in a space where she doesn't have to perform or defend, she begins to long for that presence. She doesn't just miss you, she misses the version of herself that exists when she's with you. You become her mirror for self-acceptance, her quiet corner in a noisy world, and missing you too soon, that's her subconscious saying, "Don't take this piece away." Now here's what most men get wrong. They downplay that moment. They laugh it off. They respond with, "Already? We just saw each other," not realizing that her vulnerability is a gift, not a trap. When a woman says she misses you early on, she's not being needy. She's being emotionally available. Respond with warmth, not distance. You don't need to say, "I miss you too," unless it's true, but you can acknowledge the meaning underneath. Something like, "That means a lot. I like the way we talk. Feels easy." It's not about speed. It's about depth. And the depth she feels isn't about how long you've known each other. It's about how safe you've made her feel in a world where most men only want access, not connection. The next time you hear, "I don't know why, but I miss you," don't overthink it. She's telling you her guard is coming down, not because she's weak, but because you've given her a reason to rest. And once that door opens, what comes next is often more revealing than words. Let's talk about that shift when her energy says yes, but her words haven't caught up yet. Part 5. The familiar stranger, why she feels drawn to you without knowing why. It started with a laugh, not the kind you politely offer in a conversation, but the kind that escapes before you even think. That's what happened to Rachel the third time she met Caleb. They weren't particularly close, just colleagues in a large company, always catching glimpses of each other during morning meetings or in the elevator. But this time, something shifted. Caleb said something simple, maybe even forgettable. But Rachel laughed like she had known him for years. And then she caught herself saying something she didn't expect. "That's so weird. I feel like I've known you forever." The words surprised her and him too. This phrase isn't just a poetic line. It's a psychological doorway. When a woman says this, especially early on, it means something deep inside her has made peace with your presence. Her nervous system doesn't treat you like a stranger. Her emotional memory responds as if you've been part of her world long before this moment. Psychologist Carl Jung believed in the idea of the collective unconscious, that some human connections feel predestined not because of logic, but because of archetypes we carry inside us. And when a woman sees you and feels that mysterious pull, it's not always about who you are on paper. It's about how you resonate with something she recognizes: safety, depth, maybe even destiny. The truth? You don't earn this kind of connection by performance. You don't force it with charm. It happens when you show up in your stillness, in your clarity, and in your ability to listen with more than just your ears. In Rachel's case, she wasn't in the market for love. She was healing from someone who had made her question her worth. And yet, around Caleb, she felt no pressure to impress or protect herself. There was just space, spaciousness to be seen, to be heard, to not explain everything. And in that space, her emotional guard slipped, not from weakness, but from recognition. When a woman says she feels like she's known you forever, it's not about time. It's about resonance. So how do you respond? Not with logic. Don't say, "Well, we've only met a few times." That breaks the spell. Instead, meet her in that moment. Smile and say, "Yeah, it feels familiar, doesn't it?" Or, if you're bold, "Maybe we've crossed paths before, just not in this lifetime." It's not about being cheesy. It's about honoring the rare feeling she's experiencing, a subtle but powerful shift from curiosity to connection. You become not just a man in her present, but someone who feels like he's always belonged in her story. Some of the strongest emotional bonds begin here, not with certainty, but with a strange kind of peace, like finding a song you didn't know you missed until you heard it again. You're no longer just a stranger. You're the familiar she never expected but can't forget. Part 6. Her eyes say it first when the truth escapes before her lips do. Sometimes, silence doesn't just speak, it screams. Before a woman gathers the courage to say how she feels, her body has already spoken volumes. But nothing is louder than her eyes. Not in a desperate way, not in a movie scene gaze, but in the moments between words. The pauses, the stolen glances, the way she lingers just a beat too long when you look at her. Her mouth might lie, but her eyes never do. There's a moment, and you've probably felt it, where conversation stops mattering. You say something meaningless like, "I should probably head out." And instead of replying, she just looks at you. And in that pause, she's not asking you to stay. She's begging you to understand. Because her feelings have arrived before her voice did. In psychology, this is known as emotional leakage, the subconscious release of emotion through facial expressions, especially eye behavior. Even when a woman hasn't consciously accepted her feelings, her pupils dilate, her gaze softens, and she mirrors your expressions. It's not seduction, it's vulnerability. Let me tell you a story. Nathan wasn't looking for anything. A freshly divorced architect in his early 40s, he spent his afternoons sketching in a quiet coffee shop by the pier. That's where he met Elena, a literature teacher who always carried too many books and never enough sleep. They talked, casually at first, over books, then about childhood, grief, life. She had a partner, he had his walls, but there was something in the air, not lust, not even romance, just gravity. One evening, As they were saying goodbye, Nathan stood, gathering his things. Same time next week? She nodded, then stopped. Her eyes locked on his, not in flirtation, not in hesitation, but in confession. She didn't say a word, just held the gaze. No smile, no twitch, just 2 full seconds of unfiltered presence. And that was it. She turned and left. Nathan sat back down. He didn't know why, but he did. Because in that 2-second silence, her eyes told the truth her life didn't yet allow. And he wasn't imagining it. That's the thing about eyes. You can't stage them. You can't script them. When her gaze holds a little longer, when she scans your face as if memorizing it, when her expression relaxes around you in ways it doesn't with others, that's not small talk. That's her heart leaking through the cracks. And when she looks at you, like she's both scared of and drawn to what's happening between you, that's the moment everything changes. You don't need to say much in return. In fact, saying too much would break the spell. Instead, do this. Hold the gaze for half a second longer than usual. Let her know you saw it, felt it, but didn't rush it. That restraint, that calm presence is what makes her feel safe, even in the chaos of her own growing emotions. Because what begins in the eyes often ends in the heart. Part 7. The message between the words, when I miss you, means so much more. I miss you. It sounds simple, harmless, casual even. But when those 3 words come from a woman who hasn't known you long or hasn't seen you in just a few days, they mean far more than surface-level longing. They're not just about your presence, they're about your impact. You see, for many women, saying, I miss you, isn't about time. It's about emotional imprint. It's a confession dressed as a comment, a way of saying, something about you stayed with me even when you weren't here. Psychologists refer to this as emotional encoding, when a person becomes psychologically linked to moments of comfort, clarity, or connection. It's why hearing your name or seeing your photo stirs something inside her, not because you're around, but because the absence now has weight. And when she says she misses you too soon, it's not a red flag, it's a revelation. She didn't plan to say it. It slipped out, because your presence has become a place her mind goes when the noise dies down. Let's ground this in a real story. Isaac and Lila had only been on 3 casual dates, nothing official, just long walks, awkward coffee spills, and conversations that never felt like effort. Then one weekend, Isaac left town for a family trip. No drama, no tension, just space. 2 days later, Lila typed out a text. I miss you. She stared at it, backspaced, typed again. Feels weird not talking to you today. Still too much. Deleted. Finally, she settled on, hope your trip's going well. But the real message was in what she didn't send. The next evening, after a shared song came on the radio, she broke. Okay, this is silly, she texted. I miss you. And just like that, her heart hit send. Not because she needed validation, but because the feeling was too honest to hide. Here's the truth. When a woman says, I miss you, without prompt, without pressure, and especially when time apart has been short, she's not just expressing nostalgia, she's revealing emotional dependency forming. It means she feels a sense of safety with you, not from what you give her, but from how you make her feel when you're near. And the way you respond to this moment matters. Don't turn it into a joke. Don't overplay it with excessive enthusiasm. Instead, respond with grounded warmth. That means a lot. I've been thinking about you too. Or, I was just about to say the same. I like how we feel even when we're apart. Because what she's truly saying is, you matter more than I expected and faster than I planned. That kind of vulnerability deserves presence, not performance. Because in the end, I miss you isn't about time. It's about emotional space. And when she starts to miss you in the quiet moments of her day, She's not just falling for you, she's already fallen. Final reflections and your 7-day emotional awareness challenge. You've just learned how her words, soft, indirect, often wrapped in humor or hesitation, can reveal something deeper than she's ready to admit. The truth is, when a woman begins to feel something real, her language subtly shifts, not into declarations, but into patterns of emotional presence. A phrase like, "you're not like most guys," isn't casual. It's coded longing. "I miss you" doesn't just mean absence. It means you've already filled a space in her mind she didn't expect you to occupy. And when she says she can be herself around you, that's not just comfort. That's chemistry choosing safety. But here's what matters most. These phrases are not permission to chase. They're invitations to respond with depth, stillness, and clarity. To show that you're not just emotionally available, you're emotionally grounded. Because in a world full of noise, the rare man who listens without leaning in too fast becomes unforgettable. Welcome to your 7-day emotional awareness challenge. For the next 7 days, pay attention not to what women say, but how they say it. Pick one conversation a day and listen between the lines. Is her tone softer when she talks to you? Does her pacing slow down? Is she sharing more than she used to, even if she doesn't realize it? Keep a journal if you can. You're not tracking her feelings. You're training your presence. Because once you learn to hear what's unspoken, you'll never mistake confusion for connection again. If this spoke to you, like the video and subscribe. And if there's a moment you now see differently, drop a comment below with, "I hear the unspoken." I'll be there reading every one.